Well, the spooky season is finally upon us, so let's celebrate with some spooky movies. I'm not kidding when I said the spooky season is finally upon us. It may not be October quite yet, just around the corner, but all of the spooky business that comes with getting ready for Halloween is in full swing. My work with the Rocky Mountain Paranormal Research Society is ramped up. We're engaged with a bunch of public talks and lectures and all kinds of other spooky business that we like to do. I've got my podcast, I've got this YouTube channel, all kinds of spooky business to take care of. Let me remind you to always read the what's it below the video descriptions, so that you can find information about all of those other projects, including purchase links to the products I'm going to be talking about in this video and everything else. But in the midst of it all, we still need to take some time to relax and watch a good scary movie, and that's where HorrorPack comes in. For those of you who don't know, HorrorPack is a monthly subscription service, and they send you boxes of horror movies every month. They have a DVD option and a Blu-ray option. As you can see, I get both of them. You can get them separately if you want to. The Blu-ray option also comes with a HorrorPack exclusive, which is some kind of exclusive or limited edition. Some of them have been signed editions, somehow exclusive to the HorrorPack company. That's always a treat to find. Anyway, I like to open these up here on this channel and let y'all discover what's inside at the same time as I do. They always seem to have some great stuff. In fact, I recently just reviewed the previous year's worth of HorrorPack all at once in a video a few weeks back, so check that out if you haven't seen it. But now we're embarking on another year, my third year in the program. I didn't start at the beginning of the calendar year. I started in September. So I'm going to open these up and see what September 2022 brings in the HorrorPack world. Let's go ahead and dig right into these boxes, shall we? While I'm doing that, let me just remind you to do all the YouTube-y things that we annoyingly ask y'all to do in every video, it seems, on this platform. You know what to do. Subscribe, ring the notification bell, leave a comment, like this video, share it far and wide with all of your friends and even with your enemies if you so desire. Let's go ahead and open up this other one. Now that I've opened these up, I've made a bit of a discovery. I don't, in fact, have both of the DVD and Blu-ray packs yet. This is a thin little pack. This must be the gifts that I got for renewing my subscription. When you purchase a subscription annually, they send you a free DVD or Blu-ray, depending on which package you get, as a sort of a thank you gift. So since I've renewed, I've got some new freebies. So by the time you see this video, I will have gotten the DVD and the Blu-ray pack. As of right now, I've not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up these, whichever this is, the DVD or the Blu-ray, and these freebies. I'll open those up. I'll talk about those. Then I'll go and do some other things. When I get the other package, I'll come back down here and film the last one last. So if you see me in different attire or things seem out of order, that's why. So let's begin with these freebies. The first one to come out of there is this nice steelbook version. This is the Heroes of Horror collection. We see Dracula on the cover. This is the DVD freebie, and this comes with, it says over 17 hours on 4 DVDs. Let's see what's all in here. We have White Zombie. That's a classic movie if you haven't seen it. That was one of the original zombie movies before George A. Romero with Night of the Living Dead sort of turned zombies into The Walking Dead. This is more Haitian voodoo type of zombie. It's an excellent film. We have Bowery at Midnight, starring Bela Lugosi, Invisible Ghost, starring Bela Lugosi, and Spooks Run Wild, starring Bela Lugosi. On disc 2, we have The Devil Bat, starring Bela Lugosi. The Corpse Vanishes, also starring Bela Lugosi. The Ape Man, starring Bela Lugosi. Let's see, looks like this is a lot of Bela Lugosi. So, The Ape Man, Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla. And then on disc 3, there's Snake People, starring Boris Karloff. So it's not entirely a Lugosi collection. In fact, looking at the cover, I see it's Lugosi and Karloff in this version. Then we have Island Monster, starring Boris Karloff. The Terror, starring Boris Karloff, which interestingly also stars a young Jack Nicholson. And then on disc 4, we have The Veil. This is the complete 10-episode TV series hosted by and starring Boris Karloff. So some good stuff. I've seen a lot of these, although a few of these I haven't actually seen yet. They're not all Lugosi and Karloff's best-known works. There are some well-known ones and some less well-known ones. This is a nice collection to have. Really well presented in this steel case. Lots of good stuff. I like a collection that comes with a lot of different movies so that you can sample some different things. This is a winner. I'm really pleased with this DVD subscription gift, this free gift. And then the other one must be the Blu-ray, and it is. This is Eli Roth's History of Horror. This is a documentary. This is season 1, I should say. It's a documentary that I've been meaning to watch because in addition to being a horror nerd, I'm a bit of a history nerd. And I'm really a horror history nerd. In fact, when I'm working with Rocky Mountain Paranormal, in addition to all the ghost stories and everything, which are wonderful, right, Dr. McCoy? We like the ghost stories. But in addition to all that, we really like to dive deep into the history of the various locations. And I like to dive deep into the history of my favorite genre. So I've not seen this yet, but I'm really excited to. Let me read the description on the back for you. The description says, award-winning horror film director, writer, producer, and actor Eli Roth brings together the masters of horror, the storytellers and stars who define the genre, to explore its biggest themes and reveal the inspirations and struggles behind its past and present. Each one-hour episode will take viewers on a chilling exploration of how horror has evolved through the years and examine the genre's impact on society, as well as delving into how horror maintains its fan base and why audiences are addicted to fear. Interviewees include Stephen King, Quentin Tarantino, Linda Blair, Lil Ray Howery, Rob Zombie, Greg Nicotero, Slash, and many others. So, like I said, I've been meaning to watch this, haven't seen it yet. Another wonderful gift from the fine folks over at the HorrorPack company. And I'll just mention, if you happen to like horror history, do make sure you subscribe to this channel because I like to dive into history from time to time myself. And in fact, even if you don't like history, subscribe anyway, ring that notification bell. Like I said, we're heading into spooky season. I've got a lot of fun stuff planned for the weeks ahead. Wahahaha. Well, I'm back. If I had the budget or patience for any sort of special effects, you'd probably have seen the screen go all wavy, maybe with some audio or something, but as it stands, I'm poor and lazy, so you just get me, albeit a version of me from the future. Or maybe the other me is the me from the past. I really can't tell. Time travel is weird. Anyway, I've now got the other package, the DVD package, so you've heard the introduction. I'm going to just open this up, and we got some good movies, hopefully, so we're going to see what's inside the DVD package. And here it is, the DVD package, so let's just get right to it. The first one is a film called Revenge. This is one I have not seen. I've seen a trailer for it, and well, it's a revenge movie, as the title might suggest. Let me go ahead and read the description for you. The description says, debut director Coralie Fargiet, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, so my apologies for that, announces her stunning arrival, painting a crimson canvas of hypnotic beauty and bloody retribution in this razor-sharp feminist subversion of the revenge thriller. Jin is enjoying a romantic getaway with her wealthy boyfriend, which is suddenly disrupted when his sleazy friends arrive for an unannounced hunting trip. Tension mounts in the house until the situation abruptly and viciously intensifies, culminating in a shocking act that leaves Jin left for dead. Unfortunately for her assailants, Jin survives and re-emerges with a relentless, wrathful intent: revenge. A white-knuckle tale of transgression and transformation, Revenge gloriously blurs the lines of vengeance and survival while simultaneously delivering a ferocious dissection of gender and genre. So basically, this is a sort of knockoff of I Spit on Your Grave, which, if you haven't seen it, is a fairly brutal revenge horror thriller kind of a movie. There's a remake which is actually decent, but track down the original, that's the one to watch. I'm not rightly sure how much new there is to be added to that particular subgenre. I feel like that film and its couple of sequels kind of said it all, but those were good movies, particularly the original. And if this is anything like that, it should at least be a decent watch. Next, we have a film called Ouija Geist. And it sounds like the DVD is actually loose in here, so hopefully no harm done, but it's not a film that I'm familiar with. I like the art on both front and back. Let me read the description for you. It says, after renting a new apartment, a single mom finds a spirit board buried in the backyard, which conjures the ghosts of a group of evil entities who haunt her and her family. A local priest is enlisted to help her put these souls to rest forever before they break free and create hell on earth. So it does sound like there are hints of poltergeist in this, but focused particularly around a Ouija board. I've always found it sort of strange that people are afraid of Ouija boards. I have many of them, and, well, my house isn't haunted yet, except by the monsters and skeletons that I've put here. But people do seem to be afraid of those for whatever reason. That's a topic for an entirely different video. I could sort of write an entire dissertation on the subject, and even still, I'm not entirely sure that I really understand it. But that does seem to be the lore, and this film seems to be capitalizing on that lore. So it has a lot of potential to be a good one. It deals with some familiar tropes, but hopefully in an original way, or at least in a fun way. Like I said, it's not a film that I know anything about, but I'm looking forward to giving it a try. At the very least, the title is amusing to me. Next up, we have Overlord. This is a film by J.J. Abrams, but don't necessarily hold that against it. I have seen the trailers for this, and it looks pretty good. It is another one that I haven't seen, but this is a sort of horror war movie, and I think that's a subgenre that's ripe for, well, it's well explored, but I think it's ripe for even further exploration, particularly as we are now seeing war, a particularly substantial land war, the largest in Europe since World War II, so unfortunately, maybe it's become relevant once again. Anyway, let me go ahead and read the description for this one, which says, nothing can prepare you for the mind-blowing mayhem that is Overlord. I suspect that's an overstatement, but I'm more jaded than most audiences. Mega producer J.J. Abrams creates an insanely twisted thrill ride about a team of American paratroopers who come face to face with Nazi super soldiers unlike the world has ever seen. You know, the Nazi biological weapons and Nazi super soldiers and Nazi psychic warfare and all of these Nazi crazy things that Nazis were experimenting with, it's pretty well explored. It's sometimes a little bit stale, but every once in a while we get one that really presents a new twist on the subgenre, and hopefully this will be one of those. Continuing on, you'll never get a moment to breathe in this critically acclaimed non-stop action epic you have to see to believe. So, with J.J. Abrams' name attached to it, I don't think it's any surprise that this is, or at least it sounds like, at least as much an action movie as a horror movie. But while I haven't seen it, I think if we keep that in mind, and if we expect an action horror rather than a straight horror, I am somewhat optimistic about this. I'm really looking forward to trying this one. I remember seeing the trailer when it was coming out in theaters a couple years ago, and for whatever reason never actually made it out to the theater to see it, so I'm glad to have this in my collection now. And lastly, we have a film called American Cannibal. I'm pretty sure I've heard the title of this one, but I know I haven't seen the film, I haven't seen trailers for it, I don't really know anything about it. Let's just dive right in with the description off of the back, which says, Rebecca, Chelsea, and Ashley, having just recently graduated high school, are enjoying the last days of their summer vacation. Since two of the girls plan on going away to college, this is their last night to spend time together and party. After sneaking out of their houses, the three girls start drinking, and while looking for trouble, decide to steal a car. Don't do that. If you're in a horror movie, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass, and if you're not in a horror movie, it's just really a horrible thing to do to somebody. When the car's security system kills the battery, as it should, the girls know the police will be arriving soon. Panicked, they decide to see if they can hide out in the home of a local resident. Unfortunately, they chose the wrong person to ask for help. See, that's what happens when you start stealing things. Some horror movie justice is gonna unleash itself to make things right and dish out, well, the only kind of justice that horror movies know how to dish out. Given the title, I do think I have a pretty good idea of just what kind of horror movie justice these three wayward girls are going to find themselves in for, but it sounds like a fun movie anyway, so I'm also looking forward to trying this one. It's not one I'm familiar with, but it sounds like a fun movie. So anyway, that's the DVD pack for September 2022, and I'm gonna skip over now. I've already opened the Blu-ray pack, and you're about to see it, so I'll see you in the future or the past. I'm not really sure which it is. Either way, let's just go ahead and cut over to that. Okay, next up, I can see from the spine, this is the Blu-ray package. I don't yet have the DVD package. You will have just seen the DVD package by the time you watch this video. I have not yet, so I'm diving right into the Blu-ray package. Let's just see what we find. And first up out of the Blu-ray package, we have a film called Crabs. This is not a film that I'm familiar with, but I'm guessing it's some kind of a creature feature. Let's see what the description says. It says, "It's the Zombievers meets Godzilla hybrid you always craved in the creature feature comedy horror of the year. Mutated by nuclear runoff, a horde of murderous horseshoe crabs descend on a sleepy California town, causing prom night terror. As the deadly crustaceans claw their way through the disbelieving population, it's up to a ramshackle band of students and local law enforcement to address the increasingly ginormous crab menace in a love letter to such practical effects horrors as Gremlins and nostalgic Roger Corman classics." You know what? That sounds like exactly what I want. Horror comedy rather than straight horror. I like it all. I like straight horror and horror comedy. I like a good creature feature. I'm very pleased that they mention practical effects instead of CGI. On my podcast just last night, we were discussing how much better practical effects are than CGI. And in fact, you should listen to the Do You Like Scary Movies podcast as well at doyoulikescarymovies.com, because somehow we managed to get that domain name. Anyway, getting back to this movie, it really has everything I'm looking for. Crabs, creatures, monsters, creature feature, practical effects, horror comedy, this ramshackle band of students and local law enforcement. It really seems like it's shaping up to be a good time. This is also a Blu-ray and CD combo pack, so I'm assuming that, let's see if it says, I'm assuming the CD is the soundtrack. Yes, indeed, the CD is the soundtrack of the film, so I kind of like that as well. If it turns out I like the soundtrack, I will enjoy listening to that even when I'm not watching the movie. So far we're off to a really good start in the Blu-ray pack. Let's see what's next. The next one is Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. And this, it looks like, yes, this is both the original and the remake, the new one. And I think a lot of us have some thoughts on the remake. Personally, I didn't find it all that good. I think it had a few great moments, and I think John Lithgow is one of the best and most underrated actors around, one of the best and most underrated actors still working, so I didn't hate it entirely, but I did think the remake was sort of a pale imitation of the original. This also includes the original Pet Sematary from, I believe it was the mid-80s. Let me see if I can find the date on it. The late 80s, 1989. If you haven't seen that one, you really need to. That's a great film. And by the way, read the book as well. Don't just watch the movies. The movies are great, but the book, Pet Sematary, is one of my favorite books of all time. I never actually do those top 10 lists of, top 10 horror novels of all time because I always want to put more than 10 on it. But Pet Sematary would be in the running for inclusion on such a list. So read the book. Watch both versions of the movie, but especially the 1989 version. For those of you who don't know, let me read the description on the back. The description of the original says, "The terrifying tale by Stephen King is also a beloved adaptation of the best-selling author's work. Newly remastered for its 30th anniversary, Pet Sematary follows the tragic story of the Creed family. After their cat is accidentally killed, a friendly neighbor advises its burial in a mysterious nearby cemetery. When the cat comes back, it's only the beginning of an unthinkable evil leading to hell and back. Sometimes, so it seems, dead is better. And then we have the description of the remake as well, which says, based on Stephen King's terrifying novel comes a film critics are calling a creepy masterpiece. After the Creed family relocates from Boston to rural Maine, as you do in a Stephen King story, they soon discover an ancient burial ground hidden deep in the woods near their new home. When tragedy strikes, the grief-stricken father is driven by the cemetery's sinister powers, setting off a perilous chain of events that unleashes an unfathomable evil with horrific consequences. Some secrets are best left buried in this twisted and bone-chilling thrill ride. So I think between the two, that gives you a pretty good idea of what Pet Sematary is all about, even if you don't know. I'm really pleased to have this little double feature in my collection. Of course, I've seen both of them. The original is great. The remake is not as bad as a lot of horror fans made it out to be, although not quite as good, but both worth watching, and I'm pleased to have this in my collection. Let's see what's next. We have the unrated director's cut of Paranormal Activity 2. This is one I do already have in my collection. I don't remember if I have the DVD or the Blu-ray, and I don't remember for certain if I have the director's cut, so I'll have to check and see if I'm getting anything new with this. But I do like the Paranormal Activity movies. The first one in particular I thought was a really good example of the sort of found footage subgenre. The second one was also pretty good. As the series went on, I think it lost some of its mojo, but they're still worth watching, and this was one of the relatively early ones when they were still sort of higher in my ranking, so a really nice entry into my collection, even though I've already seen it and already had a copy of it. For the sake of completion, I will read the description for you, which says, Paranormal Activity 2 is as groundbreaking as the original. Just as Daniel and Christy welcome a newborn baby into their home, a demonic presence begins terrorizing them, tearing apart their perfect world and turning it into an inescapable nightmare. Security cameras capture the torment, making every minute horrifyingly real. Critics warn to say goodbye to sleep, as Paranormal Activity 2 will haunt you long after its shocking final scene. That seems like sort of a fair description to me. Pretty good movie. Worthy entry into anybody's collection. I'll just have to check and see whether I have this particular edition or not, because I don't recall. But a nice choice, a good selection by the HorrorPack people, as usual. And then the last one must be the HorrorPack exclusive. I can see that it is in fact HorrorPack exclusive number 75, according to the spine, and that is a film called The Winter Hunger. I do like the title. I think a wintry sort of setting is perfect for a horror movie, or a horror novel for that matter. As is usually the case, I'm not familiar with this film, although I do see immediately on the back it says it was the winner of the Best Feature Film at the Dracula Film Festival, so at least somebody liked it, so that bodes well. Let's go ahead and read the description, which says, a mutation of the rabies virus, B249, has been transmitted to humans. The outbreak north of Sumatra needed only 20 days to expose the entire continent. Now, a group of 5 people are on the run from the terrible threat hanging over them. Infection. There is no electricity, no communication, no military, no government. And winter is coming. That seems like a really good setup. I've mentioned in fact, one of my earlier videos, one of the really early ones on this channel, I talked about the importance of isolation in a horror story. The more isolated your characters can be, in general, the more frightening the situation that they find themselves in. So, putting them in this, far north place where there is, in fact, as it says, no communication, no military, no government, no electricity, you strip them of all of those resources, you strip them of the community that surrounds them, and they really have to fend for themselves. And it sounds like it's a rabies virus, so I'm guessing this is sort of a zombie-ish kind of a story, even though it's not technically zombies. So strip people of all of their community and resources, stick them in a cold, frigid, wintry sort of place, introduce something horrifying, infected people, zombies, whatever they may be, that's a recipe for a really good horror story. So I am really very much looking forward to this one. That's The Winter Hunger. A nice new one that I was unfamiliar with, as is frequently the case for the HorrorPack exclusives, but the HorrorPack exclusives are usually pretty good, and this one sounds pretty good. Very much looking forward to this one as well. Well, that does it. That's a bunch of new movies for me. Obviously, I don't have all of them here because I'm filming this on the first day of filming, but by the time you see this, you'll have seen all of the movies that I've gotten for September 2022 from the HorrorPack people. Some really good stuff already from the Blu-ray, and I'm sure the DVDs are great as well. You'll have heard my thoughts on those as I open them up, whenever they do arrive. So I'm pleased with all of this, but it seems like I've got some movies to watch, and Lord knows with spooky season rapidly approaching, I've got a lot of spooky business to attend to, so I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go watch some movies. I'm going to go do some spooky things. You're going to subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell, like this video, and share it with your friends, right? Anyway, we've both got our tasks to do, so it's time to sign off, time to part ways. But until next time, take care and stay scared.